Northeast Tonight, brought to you by Oil India Limited, conquering newer horizons.
Hello and welcome to Notice Tonight, the show that decodes the region. This is the first time, viewers, since World War II that so many countries around the world have seen schools and educational institutions go into lockdown at around the same time and for the same reason. We know that the impact of the novel coronavirus will be far-reaching, but what could it mean in the longer term for education? For a while now, educators around the world have been talking about the need to rethink how we educate future generations. The majority of students in our educational institutions today are from Generation Z, the oldest of whom are now 25 years old. In the midst of this COVID-19 crisis, educators must be wondering how to prepare students in the future. According to a Dell Technologies report, 85% of the jobs in 2030 that Generation Z and Alpha will enter into have not been invented yet. And according to a World Economic Forum report, 65% of primary school children today will be working in job types that do not exist yet. It is clear education needs to change, and educators have to better prepare our young learners for what the future might hold. These lessons include educating citizens in an interconnected world, redefining the role of the educator, teaching life skills needed for the future, and unlocking technology to deliver education, among others. The COVID-19 pandemic has resulted in educational institutions across the world being compelled to suddenly harness and utilize the available technological tools to create content for remote learning for students in all sectors. But can remote learning result in good education? To discuss the subject, I am joined by Father V.M. Thomas, a well-known educationist and former Chancellor of the Assam Don Bosco University, Guwahati. Also joining me is Dr. A.K. Pansari, Chancellor of the Royal Global University. I also have Professor Alak Buragohai, former Vice Chancellor of Dibrugarh University, and Dr. Kandorpa Das, Vice Chancellor of the Krishna Kanto Handik State Open University. Gentlemen, welcome to Notice Tonight. I'd like to begin with you, Father V.M. Thomas. You know, COVID has changed the world. How do you predict education in the days ahead? That is the million-dollar question.
Locks come, I think, with keys. We are in lockdown situation, and therefore, we will find definitely solutions and keys in order to move on. And I personally think, in some way, this is a wonderful opportunity that has emerged for us to rethink education. It is a disruption. There's a disruptive crisis, but I think it's a unique opportunity to think and plan for education in the future. Being involved in education for quite some years, we have been trying to help teachers to think differently. But it has been extremely difficult because I think, as you rightly said at your introductory remarks, that probably 1/3 of the jobs that will exist tomorrow are not today, are not available today. And similarly, I think 50% of, let's say, the jobs that exist today will not be available when these students, the so-called Generation Z, takes on jobs. And therefore, can we continue with the same education, style of education? I think it is madness to believe that the same education will prepare young people for the future. Madness is to do same things and expect different results.
Right.
So therefore, I would say this is a kind of madness in which we are, and I would consider this as a very unique opportunity to rethink and redesign education.
Absolutely. This is actually a unique opportunity to rethink and redesign how education need to proceed in the days ahead. That's what Dr. V.M. Thomas is making in his introductory remark. Let me come to you, Dr. A.K. Pansari, Chancellor, Royal Global University. Dr. Pansari, what is your prediction, very briefly, what is your prediction as far as education? What are the challenges before the educators today in a post-COVID world?
Mr. Wasbir, before telling me as to what will be the challenges post-COVID, let me tell you what are the challenges right away. As you know, more than 1 billion students across the board in the whole world are out of the school campus today. They are not getting the campus education. Our syllabus is made in such a way which is always subjected to face-to-face interaction, but they are not able to do that because of COVID-19.
Right.
Now, online education has come as a rescue. Of course, we will discuss little later as to how many students have been able to get to the learning through online education and what are the challenges ahead, what are the pros and cons. But for the time being, online education being imparted and majority of the students are getting education. As Father Thomas rightly said that this has come as a blessing in disguise. We were used to have the traditional system of education, rote learning, focus on theory papers and all that. The time has come when maybe the online education is going to stay. In times to come, we have a blend of system of online as well as campus education, what I call it hybrid education, which is going to be a great revolution in the time ahead, COVID-19. Post-COVID-19.
Okay, that's a very, very interesting opening remark. Hybrid education, I think Dr. Pansari is talking about 50% or some percentage of online classes and some percentage of campus classes. So that is hybrid. We'll develop on that idea of hybrid education, whether it is going to hold. Professor Alak Buragohai, what are your opening remarks? Where we prepared for this, where you particularly as an educator, as an educationist, did you ever imagine that you will have to be faced with a challenge like this?
Oh yes, this kind of pandemic, I think this is for the first time in our lifetime we are witnessing and experiencing. So therefore, it is unprecedented and its impact is all round. There is not a single aspect of our life and in any part of the globe today, we are confronting the same kind of impacts of COVID-19, the pandemic. So therefore, the situation calls for new thinking. As Father Thomas said, that we have to look for the key, and if the key is not there, we have to really make a key for it.
Yeah.
And there can be very many different innovative ideas, as Mr. Pansari had just mentioned about the hybrid system. That is an innovative idea, and these are there. So we will have to innovate, and we'll have to take forward with these innovations through trial and error methods, and time will select.
Absolutely. Let me come to you, Dr. Kandarpa Das. As a state open university, you are already experimenting with new formats of imparting distance education. You as an open university, you are already very, very flexible in your approach to education. Now, were you prepared for this kind of a thing? How will it, what do you have to say as someone who is heading an open university that is a lot flexible than the conventional institutions of higher learning? Dr. Kandarpa Das.
Yeah, so I think I'll speak from a different perspective because during the last 2 months after the pandemic, mostly affected the conventional universities because they have the regular face-to-face classes. Because of the lockdown, the students are away, so classes have been disrupted. But for the open universities, since our system have a flexible system, we do not have face-to-face classes. We have also used technology for imparting education. We have less affected, in fact. So, though we are not prepared, but after the lockdown, when it started, we really felt that the online education is the only option during the lockdown. There is no other option. And that is why almost all universities, colleges, schools, they started imparting education using online platform, whatever tools they use. But the important fact is that this online classes, how effective they are, how they are conducted, what tools are being used, whether these classes are engaging, whether these classes are able to retain student of the interest of the students, all these questions I think it's very vital, because for distance learning, Open University, when we go for distance education, whatever media we use, whether print media, radio, TV or internet, we have a particular methodology we use. We normally go through all the pedagogical issues while preparing this content of this learning content. However, when this due to the sudden breakdown, sudden lockdown, the conventional universities were not prepared for that. Neither the teachers nor the students. We normally know, I think everybody knows, that most of our teachers in the conventional universities are not conversant with the technology, intervention in education, and nor our students.
But yes,
So
but
suddenly we are in a very
Yeah.
difficult situation. We are yeah.
But Dr. Kandarpa Das,
So we are basically, what we are doing, we are forced online education. Yeah.
No,
Yes.
what I'm saying is that necessity is the mother of invention.
Yeah, Wasbir,
Can you hear me? Necessity is the mother of invention.
Yeah.
Necessity is the mother of invention.
yes, yes.
Although
Yeah.
these tools, although these technological
Yeah.
tools existed even before, we did not use online that much. But now we are compelled to do it. Now, if a situation comes, I think the conventional university or
Yeah.
schools or whatever educational institutions, they'll be
Definitely,
forced to use
definitely.
them, isn't it?
Definitely. Definitely. So that is why basically what previously people used to think that whether a person can learn beyond a classroom or not. That was basically, people were very skeptical before regarding online education.
We will expand on that, Dr.
After the
Kandarpa.
lockdown, that the skepticism has basically, yeah.
Yeah. No,
so that skepticism is, I think it's now almost vanished now.
Skepticism has disappeared. Now, let me expand on that. Father V.M. Thomas, there was this impression, I will ask later on in this segment to Dr. Kandarpa Das. There was that he has himself said, you see, a lot of people used to have this, feeling that anybody who has graduated, who has taken a degree from an open university or distance education, people used to take it with a pinch of salt. Let's be frank on that. Perhaps there was at a slight disadvantage. But do you think the present situation, because of COVID, the present situation, the distance learning we used to call it earlier, now we are calling it as online education, we are talking about online degrees. Do you think, now this perception is going to change a lot?
I think it's a very significant question, but I have this to say. We have been giving very wrong signals to students across the world and in our own country and in our own state, probably even more particularly. Having degree makes you employable and gives you a job. I think this is a real wrong message that we have given. Take a degree in a traditional subject and you will secure a job in the future. I see on your channel all the time about future. Now, I don't think a degree brings in a job. It is a learning.
Yeah, but that is a slightly different debate. I agree with you. But that is a slightly different debate. My question is slightly different. Whether a degree from a conventional university, which we were always given a lot of weightage, and a degree from a distant education or an online, as we call it today, do you think that will have more weight, or do you think today's situation it will be even out?
I think that's what precisely the point I'm making is they need skills. Mere degree knowledge is not going to suffice. So whether it is a conventional university or whether it's going to be through distance education, unless youngsters learn the skills and learning to do things, they cannot be prepared for the future. Because tomorrow's world is a world of skills. It's not a merely knowledge. Just moved from knowledge to skills. Knowledge is readily available. We have already stated at the very beginning, the jobs of today will not exist tomorrow. And therefore, it is youngsters with complex problem solving skills, creativity, they are going to succeed.
Okay. Now, Dr. Pansari, first you make a point, then I have a question for you.
While I 100% agree with Father Thomas, but a direct answer to the question what you raised, Mr. Wasbir, that yes, I agree that the online education or distance learning education, as you said, now will it be at par with the?
Yeah.
I
That is
don't
my
agree
question.
to that.
Yeah.
It can never be. The present scenario of online education is just a kind of temporary arrangement, a transitional phase arrangement where we have no other option but to go for online classes, which may continue for the time till we start the real campus classes, or maybe this full year.
So
but ultimately,
in
yeah.
short, Dr. Pansari, you are saying that online classes, online education cannot be a substitute for campus education. That is the point you are
It
making.
is only can be a supplement to the real classes of the campus classes.
Dr. Alak Buragai, do you agree?
Yeah, I agree to that. It can be only a supplement, but it cannot be a substitute, as you are rightly saying. But the point is, before we take it further, there is a larger perspective in the, when we talk about university, especially college and university. These are not merely educational institutes, whether it is a school, whether it is college, or whether it is a university. They are social institutions.
Yeah.
And students need to learn a lot of things like, social skills, how to, this peer learning, how to respect values and virtues of life. Online, I do not think with what kind of effectiveness this can be transmitted to the students. So this larger perspective plays a very important role as far as the civilized world is concerned.
Okay, these are very interesting comments coming up, right? We are at the beginning of the discussion actually. Dr. Kandrapadas, now yours is an open university. Now this present COVID situation, what kind of changes are coming, what are the challenges before an open university like yours? Are you going to continue what you have always been doing, or you also have to, revisit the approach with which you have been imparting education?
No, definitely. I think this present scenario has forced everyone to revisit our philosophy, our methodology, our perspective. Because I think previously, most of the distance and open learning university, they used to impart education basically through self-learning material, that is a printed material, and very few component of audiovisual material. And internet was used, but not very widely. But recently, after that present lockdown, this has also forced us to rethink, to rearrange, reorient our learning material, our content, how we deliver the content to a learner using more of internet system, more of online system, more of online classes, and more of classes using various technology. This has already been started. Let me also add here this one more very important issues. Recently, the University Grants Commission has appointed a committee under Professor Nageshwar Rao to review the open and distance learning regulation and online regulation of University Grants Commission. And there is a discussion of integrating the online education regulation of UGC 2018 and open distance learning regulation of 2017, because now open and distance learning regulation and online education has to be integrated. So that thinking has already been started.
Okay.
We have already been several consultation. In fact, let me also inform you one more thing that will be maybe probably interesting for our viewers. Immediately after the lockdown, we have come across various things. We have organized various brainstorming. On 20th and 21st April, we organized an international online conference, teaching learning during the lockdown, during the pandemic, and that's perspective for the post-COVID situation, where a number of galaxy of speakers from various universities all over the world, from Commonwealth of Learning, from the Southeast Asia, they participated and deliberated this issue in a very thoroughly deliberated these issues, and they have made a lot of recommendations regarding these issues.
Okay, so that's interesting.
Regarding integrating the ODL with the online learning.
Integrating the ODL with the online platform. So that is a very interesting, interesting initiative there, and that will become a reality. Now, Mr. Pansari, we have got at least 2 university founders. Actually, you are the first chancellor of the, if I am not mistaken, the Assam Don Bosco University. And Dr. A.K. Pansari, of course, is the founder of the Royal Global University. Now, the question is, how are you preparing your educators? I am talking about your faculty members. And now, you see, this has also opened up a huge possibilities. More than you are saying that it's hybrid, you are saying that that's not a substitute for campus. I understand, I take your point, but Dr. Pansari, but I take that point. But basically now that you have the option of having a renowned faculty members from anywhere in the world can teach your students.
Yes.
So that is also the plus point of distant learning or online learning.
Yes, that's the
so
best.
how are you utilizing this?
As far as your first question is concerned, as to how we are preparing our educators, let me tell you, we have school also, Royal Global School K-12, and we have Royal Global University, where already technology is at place. All the classes have smart board. All the teachers are supposed to use computer and teach partly by technology. So as such, it is not a new thing for them. The only thing is that under this necessity, we had to create some kind of Zoom kind of thing we had to use to see that sitting at home, they can impart education to a group of 60 student or 30 student or 20 student as the case may be.
Right.
So this is nothing new as such. The whole setup is a new concept. So I believe our educators are already prepared, but now there is a necessity of upgrading them.
So necessity of training your educators themselves.
That we have started doing that. Yes.
Okay, so lot of challenges, challenges have emerged. Now, for a conventional, Professor Alak Buragohai, you have been the Vice Chancellor of Dibrugarh University, whether it is the Guwahati University, whether it is the Dibrugarh University, these are conventional, traditional universities, state universities. Now, the question is, do you think it will take quite a while for an university like Guwahati or Dibrugarh University to adapt quickly to this kind of an online program, because there a lot of technology will have to be used, even the educators have to undergo a lot of training?
Before coming to these conventional education related questions of technology adoption and upgradation, as you have mentioned, I would just like to point out one pertinent aspect of online teaching. Online teaching, distant ODL mode has been going on for years now. It's not a new thing. Now, out of compulsion, the situation COVID-19 has come brought in its wake. So we have to go for it. Now, there are two parts to it. So far as faculty or teacher orientation is concerned. One is the technology part, and the other is the pedagogy part. The pedagogy part is also very important. While teaching online and teaching face to face, it requires different kind of pedagogic approaches. So our focus and emphasis so long globally has been, as far as ODL is concerned, only on the technology part. So technology part is just one part, and our people, I am a chairperson right now in the Royal Global Academy University, and my experience is that the teachers have gone into this technology mode very smoothly. So that is not an issue at all. But pedagogy part, yes, it is online or offline. I think we need to create good teachers. And
need to create good teachers.
Teachers.
Pedagogy, you have lot of emphasis to that aspect.
Yes.
Now, Father Thomas, how will higher education adapt to the future job market? Because organizations like the World Economic Forum, whether it is the private multinational companies, they are now looking at this. They have come up with various reports in the last 2 months as to what kind of a job market could emerge in the next 10 years. They're not talking about a 20, 30 years later. They're even talking about 7 to 10 years from now. They're saying that our people who are the generation Z, they're saying that who are 23 or 25 year old today, the jobs which they could be doing in the span of next 10 years, they may not be even exist. So what do you do in this scenario? How do you plan for the future?
I think it's a very relevant question that we all have to address. First and foremost, I think we have to make young people believe that they have to be continuous learners. They cannot get a degree and get out of the school or college and be happy that they will get a job. Instead, they have to be lifelong, continuous learners, whether they are at school or in college or at work. They have to retrain themselves. They have to continuously learn online or whatever source they have, so that they are able to understand the new world, understand the skills required for the future, and as you rightly said, We are prepared for those future jobs which don't exist today.
So you are emphasizing, you are coming back to the point that you made right at the beginning, you have to have skill-based training. So you have to empower yourself with skills. That's what
Right.
the point you made. Dr. Kandarpo Das, I'll have to go for a break, but before that, very quickly, Dr. Kandarpo Das, jobs of the future. You know, jobs of the future means responsibilities on people like you, the entire panel today, and many millions of other educators and teachers around the world to cater to jobs of the future. So huge challenge. So is there going to be a lot of research going on? Is there brainstorming going on? What is going on actually?
So what do you want to say? What exactly? I couldn't.
No, question is, you know, now
just,
jobs of the future even do not exist today. We don't know what kind of jobs await a student who is 23 to 25-year-old today about to pass out. What is he going to be, he or she, in a span of 7 to 10 years? Nobody knows. So that is the prediction of a lot of organizations today around the world.
Yeah. So you want me to comment or
No. What is the impact? What is the role of the educators in this? How do you prepare yourself for that?
No, I think the educators. Educators I think have to be updated with the latest development, because we cannot just carry on what we have been doing for the last 20 years or 50 years. We have to revisit many issues. We have to think about the future of our students. What they are going to do after completion of their degrees. So all these issues, I think we have to again think, and after this specific, after this pandemic, after this COVID, we really have to deliberate many issues again and again.
Absolutely. I'll come back to you, Dr. A.K. Pansari, but I'll have to go for a very quick break. Don't go away. I'll be right back. Welcome back. We are at a very critical stage of our discussions. Actually, we have been talking about jobs, we have been talking about higher education, the changes post-COVID, but we have to also focus on our very foundation of education, that is education in the schools. And of course, education in the poor and the rural areas. When we talk about online of education, when we talk about online classes, everybody, gentlemen, we are talking about, in educational institutions, we're talking about a certain class of people. What about the poorest of the poor? What about education? How will they get internet connectivity? You need technology. So all these things are a huge challenge before the society, before the educators, before the government. Father Thomas, how do you respond?
I think it's absolutely critical that we look at these vast majority of our children who are living in very rural areas, and also students who are studying in colleges. I was largely responsible for setting up two colleges, one in Diffu and the other in Bongaigaon. In Diffu, 95% of the students come from most parts of Karbi Anglong. The western Karbi Anglong, they don't have internet, they don't even have probably electricity, I guess. They have no internet connections.
Yeah.
So I don't know how we can really think in terms of planned online education for those youngsters of Karbi Anglong. And similarly, the college at Bongaigaon, students are from Buxar district, from Chirang district, and from various other parts of the northeast, where they do not have access, nor are they capable of getting access to online education. And you just imagine their homes, where there is.
So what is the road ahead for them? How do they bridge the gap?
I think that is where probably the government has to come in a very big way, and to see how we can develop infrastructures both at these levels and develop the rural areas. To me, I've been very surprised. There were so many families who are away from Assam calling me saying, can we come back to Northeast? We want
Okay.
to settle our children in Northeast India. It's better place than Delhi. I'm literally got calls from Delhi
now,
and from Bangalore.
let me take this question before coming back to the studio. Let me take this question to Dr. Kandapur Das. Dr. Kandapur Das, rural areas, people who do not have the connectivity, there is neither connectivity nor the means. If you have the connectivity, you may not have the means. If you have the means, you may not have the connectivity. So it's a huge challenge.
Yeah, I think you, yeah. So you have rightly pointed out, because though we start online classes, what about our students? Most of the students actually in the developing countries, they are the most vulnerable because they do not have access to electricity, first of all. Second thing, even if they have some electricity, they may not have the device, through which they can access to the online classes. And the third and most important is the connectivity, internet connectivity. So all these issues actually have to be addressed. So when we go for the post-COVID situation, when already our panelists have already said, because in the post-COVID situation, we may not have 100% face-to-face classes only. We may probably have to make a hybrid kind of education, which we call a blended education. Some part online, some part face-to-face. So in that situation, definitely we need to explore the other medium which could be effectively used for teaching and learning, maybe radio, maybe television. So all these things have to be brainstormed, have to be discussed, and that is why probably the universities, the open universities,
have
to sit together and discuss those issues.
Strategy there is a need to strategize. For the attention of everybody, the viewers as well as my panelists today. There was a very interesting story on our channel. It has been carried on our group channels as well yesterday. There's a very innovative approach in a village in Sonitpur district. There's a particular school. Now they have to maintain social distancing, so they cannot have full attendance. So what they are doing is they have taken 2 clubs. They have taken club buildings. They have taken the local namghar. They have put the classes in those schools. They have sent the teachers to the various locations, and it is going on because they cannot use technology. So therefore, they have come up with this innovative approach. Dr. Pansari, do you think need of the hour is innovation? Need of the hour is go beyond the conventional thinking, as if online is the only means. Even that may not be the only means of education.
Innovation is the need of the hour. Nobody can deny that. But the issue which we are discussing is very, very relevant about the education of the poor.
Yeah.
The students from the villages and rural areas. The private schools and CBSE school most of have already gone for online classes. But what's about their future? Will they lose one academic year is a big question. But if we discuss this in the context of our own state of Assam, we have a very dynamic education minister, Dr. Himanta Biswa Sarma. What I believe that they have made some strategy, because school cannot be started soon, maybe in the May or June it is not likely to be started. I believe it cannot start before August. If that be so, huge amount of days by that time will be lost, because they start the session in January and end by December. So one good suggestion will be that SEBA should take the session at par with CBSE, that they should start in April and end by March. So this current session they can continue till March, so that they can get extra 3 months, and by then they can complete their education. But in the meanwhile, the government is all set, I believe, to impart education partly through radio or through television, through WhatsApp mode, and as you said, they have made some center where educator will be there and some student, irrespective of the school, of that locality will come there and they will get, and the idea is just to get them involved so that they are into not empty mind, they are into some kind of in touch with the education, but ultimately their education will be completed.
At the end of the day, it is innovation. Dr. Alak Buragohai, do you think as strategy, now to strategize, see, if we talk about the UGC, it is a one set of institutions they are catering to. If we talk about school education, which you have just discussed, if you have to go from the schools to the higher secondary, to the college, to the university, at the end of the day, so I think it requires a solid governmental strategy, isn't it? I think that has to be state-wise. Do you think that has to be an approach from the center? What is your view?
See, if you look at the global scenario now, with respect to tackling of the COVID-19, you look at countries like United States of America and other countries, they have allocated 10% of the GDP, if not more, only to address the crisis. So, with respect to our country as well, I think a national policy, a national strategy, and national allocation of money, apportioning of budgetary money should be clearly be there, so that it can be utilized for global and then percolating down to the block level. So that is one.
So, that is very interesting. Father Thomas, you want to add to that?
I just want to add this, since he spoke about government and investment, I would say this is a unique opportunity for us to train the teachers in the rural areas in technology. It has been very difficult to make teachers of rural schools adopt to technology in education. But I think today teachers without technology, perhaps, I say perhaps, may have to be replaced.
Okay.
They have to learn technology and use technology in education, whether they are in urban areas or in rural areas.
So that brings me to the question, I'm coming to you, Dr. Kandappa Das. That brings me to the question, Dr. A.K. Pansari, do you think your recruitment focus will also have to change now? Your recruitment, okay, you have to take a PhD, so you may not have to take, everybody need not be a PhD today perhaps, because you need people with techno-savvy people also as educators. So, do you think, is there a case when I am asking you this question, do you agree that your recruitment policy of educational institutions might also undergo a change?
For sure, it was already there, but now under the circumstances, it has become mandatory that when we go for any kind of recruitment, the people whom we are selecting, they must be techno-friendly. Technologically, they must be very, very smart. But beside technology, one more important aspect is also to be looked into in the present circumstances, that the adaptability to the innovation, adaptability to the new circumstances, to the new challenges is also we have to look into whether that is there in that particular person or not.
Absolutely.
Now, to that.
Yeah.
Apart from technology, taking into account the fulfillment of the requirement of the UGC prescribed qualifications, etc.
Yeah.
And what is very important with respect to preparing students for the future, as you have seen, we do not know as yet what kind of jobs will come up. So how do you prepare? That question left, I think, not properly answered. I would like to add that these teachers that we will be recruiting must also have, apart from being techno-savvy and all that, they must be able to teach and train the students for critical thinking, for good communication. So these are very, very critical, irrespective of the jobs.
Absolutely. It's not just the subjects that you are going to teach, you are perhaps also going to teach them technology, even if somebody is doing honors in history or honors in English literature, he has to have attended perhaps a class in the same school or university where he is studying on technology. Perhaps that will be the order of the day. Dr. Kandappa Das, how would you like to, what are your prescription? How do we need to prepare ourselves for this new world of education and learning that we have suddenly found ourselves into?
Okay. So I think there are two things, because as far as conventional universities and institutions are concerned, our system is not so flexible as such.
Yeah.
Because as the system will be changed post-COVID situation, it will not have the same classroom, same environment, same situation. So definitely we have to rethink on many issues. One thing is the flexibility. Flexibility in terms of teaching, learning, flexibility in terms of admissions, flexibility in terms of assessment and evaluation. All these issues, I think, have to be looked into.
Yeah.
Second thing is that the intervention, technological intervention, because as far as my understanding goes, in most of our conventional universities, though in 2016 itself, UGC has given a credit transfer framework for MOOCs, the massive open online course, up to 20% of their curriculum, but most of the universities are not offering any online courses for their students. I think that situation has to be changed. Now, how to change it? Because as far as I understand, the sensitization about the online learning, the MOOCs are not there in many universities. Our teachers, our students are not ready for that. So because of that, probably we need lot of capacity building for teachers and also sensitization and capacity building for the students. And the third and most important thing is that many of our universities do not have the facilities for development of this online material. We do not have any
Content.
studio
You're talking
for
about content.
development of any
Online
class
content.
lectures. Yeah, basically, yeah, content will be very important because content has to be produced.
Yes.
And all the universities has to be empowered with that facilities. So I think in Northeast, not a single university has that EMRC, Educational Media Research Center, which is very essential in the change situation.
Okay, all right. Professor Alak Boragohai says that Dibrugarh University has that, but we will not.
One more issue, can I add?
Yeah,
Then
please add.
apart from that, I think the regulatory agencies, regulatory agencies like suppose UGC, AICTE, Bar Council of India, all these regulatory agencies also have to rethink about their regulatory mechanism because
Absolutely,
as far as
I think that is a
Bar Council of India do not allow their any legal education through open distance learning. They're strictly not allowing. Now, the present situation, what they are doing, either you close down all the legal education during the lockdown period or you continue with online classes. And what is online classes? That is the distance education. That means you are continuing your legal education through distance mode.
So
So
these
that
are
those kind of situation is coming up.
these are
And
some of the
because of that,
inconsistencies. These are
And
some of
because
the
of
gaps.
that, probably
Absolutely. These are some of the inconsistencies. These are some of the issues that
Yeah.
needs to be addressed. I think there has to be a task force or has to be some national level thinking on this so that a direction goes. I'm taking the discussion to a slightly different subject, Dr. A.K. Pansari. You know, now in this COVID situation, it's a global pandemic. It's a national crisis as far as we in India is concerned. If you look at the medical fraternity, there is a synergy between the government and the private sector. When we talk about the trade and business, there is a synergy between the government and the private sector. What about education? There are two sets of institutions in the country, one government run, two private promoted ones, the private education institutions. Now, as someone who is the founder of a private university, my question is, can there be a synergy with the government? Can there be a synergy as far as providing education or dealing with the present crisis and bridging the gap? What can be the role apart from your own university? Does private universities also have a role to play outside the campus?
Yes, for sure. As far as you said, synergy between private and public, let me tell you that private are not like, as you said, businessmen. The university has to come up with the act of state government.
Right.
And then they have to fulfill the norms of UGC. So we are running as per a particular set of laws. And as far as synergy is concerned, we have to go with the demand of the day, the call of the day. And naturally, when COVID-19, such a big pandemic is there,
Yes.
whatever is called for, demanded by the university, like first and foremost is that we have to run the university, our students should not suffer. At the same time, if we can do anything for the underprivileged students, if the government comes to us, then we have to naturally do something for that.
Okay. Now, Dr. V.M. Thomas, what is your take on this synergy, possible synergy between the government and the private run educational institutions?
I think the biggest lesson of COVID is interdependence. I think here is a lesson in interdependence and how we can work together and not in competition but stay together. We not only teach our students to work together, live together, work together, and we have every issue cannot anymore be an isolated issue. Issue is something, we have something in common together. And therefore, in the field of education, I think we need to work together, share our resources, share our knowledge, and begin to work towards, I would say, solidarity and education with a focused mission for improved quality education in our region in particular.
Okay. Dr. Alak Boragohai, your thoughts on this? Same question?
Yes, I think already just before the COVID-19 emergency has come up, this private-public partnership, which was in the field of education, has already been dealt with, as is reflected in the new education policy. It is there. Private players are being accommodated. Private universities are also being taken at par with government universities with respect to funding and all that. It is there in policy, it is in paper. But then to what extent it gets translated into reality, that is a matter to be seen.
Okay, I'm running short of time. Dr. Kandarpa Das, take the case of the Northeast.
Yeah.
Take the
Yeah.
case of the Northeast. We are 8 states. We are 8 states and we have less than 100 COVID positive cases. There are now suddenly these 64 cases have emerged in Tripura, that is on a BSF unit. Plus, if we take that, even including that, we have less than 100 cases overall in the Northeast, which is a region of 45 million people. So we can very well say that this is almost a green zone. My question is, do you think there has to be discussions, deliberations among the educational institutions, institutions of higher learning, among the schools, managements and principals who are running schools in this region? Do you think a regional approach is also necessary? But who will take the lead? Nobody is doing it as of now.
I think you are very right in that, because that is very essential, and that's a need of the time, I think, because this Northeast region, I think there is various discussion, deliberation, that we are slightly in a different position other than the rest of the country and maybe the rest of the world. So in that situation, probably we'll be little luckier,
Okay, I'll have to cut you short. Your audio, Dr. Kandarpa Das will try to fix that audio. We are running short of time. We'll still try to fix that audio. Yes, Dr. A.K. Pansari, you wanted to make a point.
Yes. Now I am coming to a very important issue about the impact of COVID on education, global education as well as education in Northeast. I am coming to your Northeast issue. Globally, education is going to be impacted.
Yeah.
Now, huge number of students from many countries, including India, used to go to America and many more in European countries. I am sure that those universities are going to be affected badly because of the COVID, till the effect remains, and for many, many more years, maybe at least 2, 3, 4 years, the students from our countries are not going to go there. Secondly, as far as Northeastern is concerned, as you rightly said, that we can think about taking all the 8 states together. The huge number of students from all these 7, 8 students used to go for higher studies to other states of the country as well as abroad, and that we used to call it exodus of students from our region, and we were fighting enough to stop and to seize this exodus. But that was not happening. Probably that is going to happen now. Now it may come as a blessing in disguise, while maybe some of our students may miss going to some of the best quality educational center in India or abroad, but most of the students who used to go to Bangalore, Pune and elsewhere for a type B university, type B colleges, they will stay in our state and will get quality education right here. But the challenges will be whether we are prepared to take on those number of students who will be looking for admission in our region this year.
I think that is a very valid point. Let's hope for the best. I think that might actually happen. So, Father Thomas, is there an opportunity amid the adversity?
I would say and I would say future begins today, not tomorrow. This is a time for us to cash in a way, if you want to say, use this opportunity to improve the quality and provide the best possible education in Northeast India. We should also work together as one entity. I think invest more into education and bring in these online classes through world-class, world-reputed teachers and provide them the very best. I say once again, future begins today.
Future begins today, future begins now. Dr. Alok Borgohain, how would you like to conclude?
Yes, the future begins today, rightly said. And we will have to now take this opportunity, because opportunity will, luck favors those who are prepared. So we have to be prepared. Our teachers have to, our institutions have to be ready with quality education. Quality, I think quality matters a lot in this.
So teachers have to be prepared, but at the end of the day, we require a good plan that can be executed. Kandarpa Das, final comments.
Yeah, I think all the institutions of the Northeast should come together, sit together, brainstorm these issues so that we can hold back our students who normally go outside Assam for higher education.
Okay, so that is the final comment. He's saying that all the institutions must come together and hold our students who do not need to unnecessarily go out of the region, as Dr. A.K. Pansari has also been making this point. There is no point in going outside unnecessarily unless you go to a good educational institution. It's a different issue. But otherwise, I think for that to happen, actually, the challenge we have to be, our educational institutions will have to live up to that reputation, come up to a certain standard, if not already come. So that is the challenge. I think we have to hold on to our students. Unnecessary brain drain is not good for the Northeastern region. On that note, I end this edition of Northeastern. I thanks very much for the panelists for engaging in this discussion and the viewers for watching the program. Time starts now. I think we have can turn adversity into opportunity as far as the education sector is concerned. We can only hope for the best. Good night and goodbye.
Northeast Tonight, brought to you by Oil India Limited, conquering newer horizons.